I'm Jack Tetley, and I run Duncan ROFGO, one of the oldest car dealers, if not the oldest car dealer in the world. We're here today, and we are predominantly race car dealers with a bit of a penchant for early GT3 cars. It's where GT3 all began, so this year celebrates 20 years since Stefan Rattel and the FIA came up with this new formula for the idea being that it would cut the costs of GT racing. GT1, GT2 was becoming too expensive for normal teams and normal drivers. So the concept was to bring manufacturers on board, Pro-Am format, and spread across the world, which it did do very quickly. Pretty much all the manufacturers of the period were involved. Yeah, they soon all came on board, and you kind of had to be there really. It became an important marketing exercise. So all the manufacturers here, we've got BMW, Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Audi, Ford, Chevrolet, even Morgan, Dodge. Yeah, they were all there within just a few short years. I think it's been the longest lasting, biggest, most successful GT series in history by a long way. Most of these great series in the past, GT1, GT2, GTE, they end up being too expensive either for the manufacturer or for the entrant or driver, and GT3 has just managed to survive and thrive, in fact, because it's actually achievable on most budgets, and the cars are very closely linked to the road car, so it makes more sense for the manufacturer to be involved. Yeah, early on it was FIA GT, which formed into became Blancpain sponsored series, which we all call Blancpain, which is now Fanatec. So that's the kind of big European headline series, but that's spread all over the world now, and there's equivalents in every corner of the world, quite literally. Well, I think this era and all eras of GT3 are great because it's offered pros and amateurs an opportunity to race together, and an amateur can truly be taught to race a GT3 car at very nearly a professional pace. They're forgiving, and there's enough driver aids that an amateur can actually get up to speed pretty quickly. So I think the great thing about GT3 is that anybody can jump in it without being too intimidated. A professional will always, as in any class, get that last half a second out of it. But in theory, an amateur can jump into it and be pretty quick. So they're forgiving and very fast. You know, people underestimate how fast they are. They're as quick as a Group C car around many circuits. Most of that speed is made up in braking, cornering. You know, they're not that fast down the straights. 500 or 600 horsepower is not that much by modern standards, but over a lap they are remarkably fast. So that's all balance of performance. So the Z4's got a lot of aero because it needed it, and then you've got other cars that have a lot more power. They don't need as much aero. They make their speed up in a straight line, but yeah, they all look very different. Some look almost like road cars. The Ferrari or the Lamborghini, body-wise, is not really that modified. But you look at the Z4 and it's, you know, there's a little bit of the shell under there, but it's basically 100% carbon fibre beyond that. The engines are fantastic, and they all sound different, which is part of the reason I love GT3. But in reality, they're not that far removed from the road car engines, which is part of the appeal of GT3. You can actually sort of rely on them to be relatively reliable. Like an Audi will go for easily 20,000 kilometres between a major rebuild, which by racing car standards is vast. So yeah, they're very powerful. They all make different notes, but actually the engines are probably the simplest part of the car. They all sound different, which is what I love. The Z4 is sort of angry V8, and then you've got the tuneful V10s, the really harsh Ferrari V8, and then you've got the kind of slightly muted turbocharged Nissans and McLarens, and then you've got the thunderous Mercedes. So they all sound different. There's a car for everybody, really. At the members meeting, there'll be a high-speed demonstration for 20 plus GT3 cars on both Saturday and Sunday mornings. The cars will then file into the pit lane, and the owners will hand over to the professional drivers who will go out for a practice warm-up session for the shootout. On Saturday afternoon, the shootout cars will head out for a one-lap qualifying session, and the order of that qualifying session will be reversed for the actual shootout on the Sunday afternoon. On Sunday afternoon, the professional drivers will head out for a one-lap shootout, the fastest of which will be crowned the winner. It'll all come down to the driver, I think. All these cars are basically equal. While some might have a bit more horsepower, they might not go around the corners as fast, so it's going to come down to who's bravest. Might be who knows the track best, because Goodwood's a tricky track to get your head around, lots of double apexes, and yeah, it's going to favour the brave, I think.